The landscape of the video game industry was beginning to change. Games were becoming more sophisticated. Violence in video games was slowly penetrating into mainstream media. Games like Mortal Kombat have been catching attention in the arcades and consoles. Depending on how you were exposed to Doom, you either loved it or hated it. In this video, the review of Doom will continue. After the success of Doom in 1993, id Software released its official sequel in 1994, Doom 2: Hell on Earth. You return from Hell to find the Earth in ruins from the demon invasion. A mass exodus of the planet initiates, and all that's left is you and a planet full of demons. Doom 2 doesn't really offer much for a sequel. There were no major technological developments or changes to the gameplay. You do have access to a new weapon, the double-barreled shotgun. It's super effective against the stronger monsters, including a few of the monsters introduced in this game. The Hell Knight and Arachnotron are the weaker variants of the final bosses of Doom. Although they're easier to take down, their attacks are just as powerful. The Pain Elemental is similar to the Cacodemon, but spits out lost souls, effectively creating a regenerating meat shield the longer the fight goes on. Another new addition is the Reverend. This has a powerful melee attack and guided rockets. A very dangerous foe, but not as dangerous as the Mancubus. Instead of guided rockets, they attack with a barrage of fireballs. Once you kill them, be sure there are no archviles around. These abominations are quick and will cast spells, one of which can resurrect the monsters you previously killed. The new enemies are packing more firepower and more beefiness than ever before, so they'll keep the pressure on for the entire game. Rather than selecting between a number of episodes, the entire single-player mode is played sequentially. Much of the level design aimed to be less linear and had a much larger concentration of monsters in each room. If that's not enough for you, id Software released an expansion pack for Doom 2 called Master Levels for Doom 2. This was a 21-level package made by various authors under contract. These offered a substantial challenge to the player, but really offers nothing new. There was no shareware version or demo for Doom 2, but there really was no reason to make one, since the gameplay is exactly the same as the first Doom. Doom 2 felt more like an expansion pack than a true sequel, but offered a more substantially difficult challenge. The Ultimate Doom was an enhanced version of the original game, adding a 4th episode with 9 levels to play through. This was used to promote the game's release in retail stores. The original Doom could only be purchased through mail order, so to be fair to those who already purchased the game, they released a free patch to update the original game with the new content. One thing you'll notice in the level design is that it simply focuses on straightforward action. There's no consistency with the storyline of Doom, so it's unclear if it takes place on the moons of Mars or in Hell. It's really just a bonus episode. For the more hardcore Doom fan, id Software released yet another game in the series. This was referred to as Final Doom. As the name implies, this is the final official release of Doom. This consisted of 2 standalone 32-level episodes. Although this was an official id Software product, the levels were not made by them, but by members of Team TNT, a group of WAD-making hobbyists. The episodes are called Tnt Evolution and the Platonia Experiment. Tnt Evolution was intended to be a free download. A few days prior to the completion of it, id Software acquired the project. 2 members of Team TNT, Dario and Milo Casali, went on to create the Platonia Experiment. The levels in Final Doom were intended to be significantly more difficult than Doom 2. That's really all this has to offer, but it offers a lot. The 64 levels are painful to get through, and the levels themselves are much larger than the previous games. If you have not played through the first 2 games, stay away from Final Doom until then. Otherwise, prepare to die often, and don't expect it to become any easier. I would only recommend Final Doom to the most hardcore of Doom fans simply because of its difficulty. It's the same old stuff, except for the more difficult levels, so if all you have is Ultimate Doom and Doom 2, there's really nothing more to see here. The PlayStation ports were essentially the same thing, with Ultimate Doom and Doom 2 placed on a single CD and simply called Doom. Final Doom was just Final Doom, plus the master levels for Doom 2. If you did not have a PC back then, the next best thing would have been the PlayStation ports. The levels had colored lighting to really add to the atmosphere. That's the only improvement it had over the PC version. Here's what's wrong with them. First, you save your progress using a password system. It doesn't use the memory card. Why? I don't know, but if you think that's stupid, get this! Most of the levels from the PC versions were removed. Usually you only do this because of limited storage space. This is not the case with the PlayStation. The ports are missing over half of the game's content and had lots of free space left over on the disc. I feel that the PlayStation owners were cheated out of a lot of content for no good reason. The levels that did get ported were also simplified to reach an acceptable frame rate, so when it comes down to it, the PlayStation ports don't take advantage of the console's features. The games were also ported to many other game consoles, which surprisingly spans multiple generations. To be blunt, the 4th generation console versions should never have existed. The hardware was too weak for the job, and the cartridges extremely limited the amount of content. The Super Nintendo had 22 levels, had only front-facing sprites of the monsters, and was missing floor and ceiling textures. The 32X version only contained 17 levels from the first 2 episodes, which means outside of cheat codes, the game was also missing the BFG 9000. Both of these versions do not take up the entire screen. The Gameboy Advance versions seem more like an experiment than anything else, with Doom and Doom 2 being made by separate companies. Did they really have to make versions for the Game Boy Advance? I like the idea of getting your Doom fix on the go, but the controls and the hardware are just not there. Everyone wanted to capitalize on Doom's popularity. Despite not giving console gamers the full experience, it still built awareness and many people enjoyed them regardless. Though if you really want a console port for Doom and Doom 2, get the Xbox Live Arcade versions. It's the PC versions on a console, not held back in any way. It also features achievements, a new episode, and multiplayer over Xbox Live. Through the numerous ports, the user-generated content, and the community as a whole, gamers everywhere know what Doom is and how great it is. But for many non-gamers in the 90s, they were introduced to the game in the worst way possible.
That was the car that possibly contained a large explosive. We have some information that hopefully some more students might be released here in the next couple of minutes. 3 different bomb squads. We know that apparently an exploded pipe bomb was brought out of the school a short time ago.
Tuesday, April 20, 1999. Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold, 2 students of Columbine High School, came to school that day with the intention to kill as many people as possible. They killed 13 people and injured 21 more before committing suicide. This was the deadliest American high school shooting and has provoked debate in the years passing. The after effects of the massacre had a negative impact on society across the board. Fingers were being pointed at everything: goth culture, firearms, antidepressants, movies, music, the internet, and of course, video games. Both Eric and Dylan were gamers, and they were both fans of Wolfenstein 3D and Doom. In fact, Eric was a Doom modder who made several maps for the game and even made a mod called Tier, which appears to have been lost. Rumor has it that he made a map that replicated the layout of the school, but there was no evidence of this to be found. The mainstream media and lobby groups caught wind of this, and they made sure to emphasize it. Because of the sensational reporting on the incident, several games released afterwards were blocked at many retail stores like Walmart and Best Buy. They refused to carry certain games simply because they contain high levels of violence. These games could have had huge success in the market, but ultimately dropped into obscurity. Fortunately for games like Doom, they were good enough and widespread enough that its legacy continued to live on. When it comes down to it, Doom is the most influential game in the history of video games, whether it be the addictive gameplay, the eye-catching graphics, or the innovative technology at the time. Anyone could just look at Doom and understand why gamers love it. It had its fair share of controversy over the years, but in the grand scheme of things, it represents a small thorn on its side. Along with Wolfenstein 3D and Doom, id Software continued to ride the wave of innovation.